fight's not over.
Stop the fight!
People.
Everybody, I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king. Kill everybody. Ah!
All right, guys, welcome back to Broke Bets. Lane here. Also got my guy Carson with me, of course.
What's going on? I'm back with another fight night card.
Yes, sir. After a week off, I know we didn't get the early vid out, but Thanksgiving complications. So let's just show our quick card, and we'll talk more about it at the end. Only got one fight wrong on the night, and that would have been Alexander. Would have been also Carlo or Mata, but that fight turned into no contest. But other than that, pretty perfect from there on out. So hopefully we do well in this card as well. Starting it off, we got Jamey-Lyn Horth versus Veronica Hardy. Starting it off, taking Hardy. I like the speed on the Hardy side. However, this fight comes with just some strange things. I feel like Veronica is slightly undersized for a 125er. That, she's kind of thick. That's why she has, I think, trouble probably cutting that extra weight. But Jamey-Lyn Horth also has fought at bantamweight prior, so she's gonna be the bigger girl. But I like Veronica's speed, and Horth can clinch a lot, but I don't know if he's gonna do much damage there or get this fight to the ground. I think Veronica could win in top control, given the scenario. But yeah, give me the speed. I like a decision win for her.
Yeah, Horth will definitely be the bigger girl here. I think Hardy is better. She's fought the better level of competition and has more experience. And she's younger too. So I like her speed here as well, and I think she'll win the decision.
Right. Also, having Dan Hardy in your corner, they're game planning these fights, and there's a lot of things in that Juliana Miller fight that you could see where they game plan for. She had her feet moving the whole fight, popped in, touched, got out of range, and then also just being smart and defensive in top position. So, yeah, I like their game planning. And I think she was a dog. I guess see it now, it says pick'em, but I think she was an underdog originally. So, yeah, I was thinking about honestly betting this one, but not that the price has already moved. If it would have been like plus 120, I would have thought about it. But all right, Veronica Hardy by decision. All right, for the next fight, we have Wellington Turman versus Jared Gooden. I'm on the Turman side. Jared Gooden, now his second stint in the UFC. Never really been impressed with this guy. Overly muscular, doesn't protect his face, keeps his hands low, has no coordination in his punches, although there is just power behind it just because he has a bulky upper body. So there's just going to be naturally more weight behind some of those punches. But Turman doesn't have a great chin, but he does have, I would say the better ground game. And then also training with Alex Pereira, he's been transitioning his leg kicks into Alex's method, and they were super effective versus Randy Brown. And I like that he doesn't turn over his hips and does that same thing. I'm going to take Turman by decision here. What do you think?
Yeah, shit fight, like you said. I think both these guys are still kind of young, but I think Turman, with the better camp that he's working out of, I think he can win the decision here. Gooden, he's coming off that Carlson Harris fight where he missed weight pretty bad too, so hopefully he gets that in check. And I think Turman has the better level of competition as well.
Right. Again, don't trust the chin. I don't feel great about it. Don't really feel like betting him. If you guys watch that Randy Brown fight, I really do feel like Wellington Turman's tried to emulate Alex Pereira's whole style. He is like standing pretty tall. Again, those leg kicks, and then even the hooks. The hooks he's trying to throw like him. So, kind of interesting to see from a guy from that camp. So, but yeah, I feel like just if he stays out of the way of Jared Gooden's windmill punches, he'll be absolutely fine. So, give me Wellington Turman by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Ihor Potieria versus Rodolfo Bellato. Gotta go with Bellato here. Potieria, the grappling and then the gas tank, big questions on his side. Bellato, Showed a great gas tank in his Contender Series fight. Great clinch work. I think he's also very well-rounded. Can use the grappling. Good takedown defense. And, I'll say decent striking. His only 2 losses professionally are to Vitor Petrino. And everyone knows he's got power. But the downsides I see to Bellato's game is he does leave his head a little high. And doesn't have the best reaction to when he's being punched. So there is a little bit of a live side for Ihor's side, but I see Bellato's cardio being the main tool, and I can see him just clinching, pushing a pace similar to how he did in the Contender Series, and similar how Nedio Mariano beat Ihor about a year ago. So I like a second-round knockout. I think that Ihor fades here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Potieria will come out hot in that first round like he tends to. If you look at his record, he's got 8 wins by first round KO. So, and just based off his last couple fights, I think he will slow down if this fight goes to a second and third round. And I think that's when Bellato will take over and eventually be able to finish Potieria.
Right. I'm also looking at the over 1.5 in this fight because I just think Bellato, I don't know if he just has that one punch crazy power. It does seem like an accumulation. And Ihor, like I said, it's just going to be one of those fights where it's like end of round 1, he's a little tired, just a little breather, recharge, and then 2.5 minutes down in a round 2 is probably going to be pretty exhausted. So I'm looking at that number. I'm going to wait till the end of the week to make a decision because we might get some good line movement in our favor. So, yeah. Any more thoughts here?
Yeah.
All right. Bellato KO round 2. Okay, for the next fight, we have Steve Garcia versus Melquizael Costa. And I'm going to take Costa on this side. Steve Garcia, though, a very live dog. This guy has some pretty good wins. He's beat Chepe before, and then he has other fights where he looks like he's just destroyed by Machete. He does have just a lot of power in his hands, Steve Garcia, on his side, and as we saw with Chase Hooper and Shailen Erdemeke, that touch that he really steps through with that left hand. So that is a dangerous tool here, but I really like the way Costa keeps at range. He uses a ton of kicks to the body, kind of a tall Muay Thai stance, and I feel like Steve Garcia is going to have to eat some shots to get in to do the dirty work, and he leaves his chin up. He doesn't protect himself as much. He's more just offensive-minded, and I feel like this is going to be a finish for somebody in the first round, and I'm at the side with Costa, so what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Steve Garcia is super dangerous. Look at his last 4 fights. All finishes. He's finished 3 of them, and then he got finished himself by Machete in that first round. So I think Costa's leg kicks will open up his striking eventually. I think if he can work the body with his kicks, and then I think Garcia's hands will drop down and leave his chin open. And I think Costa will be able to catch him. I think Costa's pretty well-rounded as well. 7 wins, KO, 6 submissions, and 7 decisions. So I think he can win it anywhere, but I think he will find a finish early on.
Yeah, I feel like we might see Steve Garcia use some of that grappling in this fight, or possibly just push him up the cage and clinch as a survival tactic probably early, but Erdemeke, who looked tired in his last fight, Garcia was able to continue to push a pace on that and just put him down, folded him, and again, I just feel like Garcia is a little bit too reckless coming forward against a disciplined striker, and I feel like Costa's going to catch him, so yeah. First round knockout for Melquizael Costa. Okay, for the next fight, we have Joe Solecki versus Drakkar Klose. And a good matchup, a striker versus grappler type of matchup. I got to take Drakkar Klose. I feel like he is a by far better striker. Also has some decent grappling of his own. Last win over Rafa Garcia, somewhat a close fight, but more damage on his side, worked some offensive grappling, and then Rafa just wasn't able to do enough. Coming to this fight, I feel like Joe Solecki is just one of these guys like Pat Sabatini that wants to push you up against the cage and then work his grappling from there. Like his shots out in open range aren't that great. And, beating Carl Deaton in your last fight doesn't say much. Pretty much lost that Alex de Silva fight. Should have been a tie, and then, of course, there was point deductions on the Silva side. And then losing to Jared Gordon. But, again, this guy gets back control on people, and then he kind of fades a little bit. It gets hard to get those takedowns. I'm going to take Drakkar close by decision. I feel like Joe Solecki will maybe have a decent round 1, and then rounds 2 and 3 will be all close. And if he's taking damage, I feel like Solecki's just going to go to his back and then try not to take as much. So, yeah, give me close.
Yeah, where Solecki has most of his success, obviously in that ground game, submission game, 8 wins by submission, and Klose has never lost by submission. So take that for what it's worth, but I think Klose will have decent enough defensive grappling to keep it standing for the most part, and win it on the feet. I think he'll be able to do more damage with the striking and win a decision. I mean, he's not really a KO guy, but he does have decent enough cardio, and will push a pace and win a decision.
Right, Solecki also, he was dropped versus Alex de Silva, but again, I just feel like this fight goes to the back. Solecki's just going to try to grab him and hold him and try to survive these positions versus... maybe Klose does get a lot of damage, but we've also seen him dump a lot of energy early in his fights, which is kind of the worry. His loss to Beneil Dariush, even his win against Brennan Jenkins, just putting out like 100 strikes in a round and then gets really gassed. Or not really gassed, but definitely slows down. The defense gets worse, and from there it's openings to get beat. But again, I feel like the grapplers slow down in these types of matchups, so... Yeah. I bet him as well. Minus 125, 1.25 units. Drakkar close. So, close by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Cody Brundage versus Zachary Reese. Gotta take Zach Reese on this side. Cody Brundage, a guy, the lowest fight IQ in the UFC. I think it's not even debatable. Also, if you guys didn't know, this guy starred, Cody, he starred in a feature film with Aljamain Sterling recently. It was called DQ Glory. They both won Oscars. They did a good job. And Cody Brundage got paid his win money in his last fight, which is pretty funny. I think he did. But anyways.
I hope not.
Zach Reese, I don't think he's phenomenal. I don't know if he should be minus 260. I think Brundage is easily shit on because when he loses, it looks real bad. But Zach Reese, this guy doesn't have any high-level competition in my eyes. That dude from Israel that he fought, he did not look that good. Moved his way into the armbar. However, Zach Reese is just really large in stature. He likes to throw a lot of kicks, but he does leave his chin straight up in the fucking air. And just one of those guys that's just soon enough before they get knocked out. And Brundage does have some power on his side, but comes with a lot of stupidity as well. So we'll put first round knockout on the board. What do you think here?
Yeah, I mean Brundage will be pulling guillotines from the start, most likely, and I think as long as Reese can avoid that early on, I think he should be able to win. Reese, all of his professional fights have ended in round 1, so I mean that's kind of sketchy if it goes to round 2 or 3. But I mean Brundage doesn't have cardio either, so
that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean that would be my worry if I was wanting Reese or betting on him, but I don't think it would be too much of a worry because you're fighting Cody Brundage. So
yeah, and Cody, I feel like he'll bring the wrestling approach to this fight, and there's a chance that Reese will be on his back. But Brundage will just get himself so tired, and Reese actually does have a pretty good guard and a pretty active game off his back. And again, Brundage just he has that puncher's chance on the feet. He's got to hope this one goes under 1.5. I did put that in a parlay piece already, and I'll tell you the other leg of it later. But It's just this is such a fight where I think betting on Reese is a super dodgeable one as well. Just let him get his UFC debut under his belt, see where he stands. So,
yeah, I mean, I think this one ends early. I mean, just these past couple of Brundage fights. I mean, I think the Olajaychuk one stands out for me, where he got reversed or whatever on the ground, and then he just gave up and turtled up against Olajaychuk. He just landed a few ground and pound shots and finished him. I think if Reese is able to do that, land a few ground and pound shots, I think Brundage will give up and turtle up.
And that's what Cedricas Dumas failed to do when they fought, is that it would only take a couple strikes to finish this dude. I mean, Malkoun had this dude, barely had a hook in and then just touched him on the side of the face, and Brundage was just ready to give up. So, yeah. Any more thoughts, or you done? Roast them.
Done.
All right.
We got to move on to this next great fight.
Oh, true. All right. Reese by KO, round 1. Okay, for the next fight, we have Miesha Tate versus Julia Avila. Didn't take Julia. Miesha Tate, old, slow, highly overrated ground game, highly overrated skill set, kind of just one of the starting founders of the women's divisions, and that's the only reason she has a name. Avila, on the break, has some volume in her striking, looks like Juliana Pena when she throws punches. Kind of an irrelevant fight, everybody knows it. Avila by decision.
Yeah, I mean, Miesha Tate coming in at 37 and looking as beautiful as ever. And then on the other side, 35 years old for Avila. I mean, weird women's fight here on a fight night card with a crowd. So, yeah, I mean, it's a toss-up. Avila by decision.
Yeah, Miesha might get a little bit of ground attack. Who fucking cares, though? If you did this one wrong, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? I mean, the best play in this fight would be, like, split decision call. So, yeah. Avila by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Clay Guida versus Joaquim. Silva, gonna take the Silva side. I'm sorry. We are Carpenter fans. We always talk about it every time we get in the mic. Clay is the GOAT. But this is just an uphill battle. And you can only go so far. And I feel like Silva's just so fucking strong. And pretty physically imposing. I mean, Armen Tsarukyan, he got him down a lot, but he did struggle, like really hold him down in some instances in the first round. And Silva's just very big in the arms and in the upper body. He didn't have the power edge, the youth edge, and sadly, I'm gonna say a second round knockout for Silva. I feel like just Clay, his style hasn't evolved. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Clay, he's obviously just gonna try to push a pace on you and eventually try to push you up against the fence and try to grapple with you. I saw in his last fight he wasn't able to do that at all. I think Rafa Garcia's jab was the equalizer in that. He just threw that out there and Clay couldn't get in distance or couldn't get anything started here. So I think Silva's got to take a page out of that book and throw out that jab. I think that could be an equalizer here. I think Silva has decent kicks as well, and I think what'd you say, KO? What round?
I said round 2. Maybe they worked their way into the fight a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Clay's only been KO'd twice or something. So he's been subbed quite a bit. I'll probably lean to a club and sub eventually, but either way. We
can switch it. I'll switch it to submission round 2. I feel like, I mean, Clay keeps his head so low that it's kind of like a position where, again, like you said, submission for guillotine, but it's also a position to get kneed in the fucking face. So, but like you said, he's going to shoot as many takedowns as he can, and in Silva, it's whether he can, like... I mean, from what I've seen, his cardio actually holds up pretty well. Even in the Armen fight, like, he didn't seem gassed, and he, almost knocked out Armen in round 2, so... Yeah.
Right.
Give me Silva submission round 2, then. Okay, for the next fight, we have Punahele Soriano versus Dustin Stoltzfus. easy pick. I mean, Soriano, and I think I misjudged Soriano in some ways. I thought he was going to beat Kopylov when that fight initially happened. I guess I didn't realize how good Kopylov was at the moment. And then, this guy, if you just look back at his competition, it's pretty good competition. Brendan Allen up there in the ranks. Maximov, he's not the best, but is a very good chain grappler. Dalcha, who's dangerous early, was an easy win for him. Then, of course, Roman Kopylov, who he did hit sometimes, but I got to go with a KO round 1. I mean, the problem with Soriano's game, he's a little bit, one-dimensional with his left hand. I think he's decently accurate with it. He's decent with cutting down distance, but when people see that punch about 20 times in a row, they start to figure it out. So I don't think Dustin Stoltzfus figures it out. I think this guy is just not good. He's not coordinated. He's not fast. His wrestling isn't impressive. I mean, Soriano has a little bit of a wrestling background himself. And Stoltzfus, from what I noticed, just uses his strength to try to grapple versus technique. So I feel like Soriano should just run right through him, similar to how Abus did. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think Soriano's a little too one-dimensional in his striking game. I mean, he just throws a lot of hooks, and I think he can straighten those punches out a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I see him KOing Stoltzfus here pretty handily. I think he does it early on in the first round.
I mean, what Sean Strickland has said about Stoltzfus, I think rings very true. That, when Sean's sparring and when Dustin was in the gym, he was doing yoga and stuff. It's like, well, I think fighting is probably the best way to prepare for fighting. So, Soriano, huge power advantage. He just can't get himself stuck on the cage because that's the only way Stoltzfus can win this fight. So, pressure forward. I think I'm looking at a bet when the line comes out for a Soriano KO. Soriano KO round 1. Okay, for the next fight, we have Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum. I'm going to take Kelvin Gastelum. I think a lot of people like him as an underdog here, and I do too. I just feel like Sean Brady, as we saw with Belal, struggled with some boxing, and there was just a couple red flags. A guy like him, the threat of the takedown and the grappling makes people so nervous for what's coming, that his striking can work. And then when Belal was able to defend stuff and move forward and touch him with his pillow hands, he lost without even getting knocked down in that fight, which is insane. And his reactions to Belal's finishing sequence was horrible. I mean, just didn't get his hands up, didn't shoot a takedown, didn't protect his face. I mean, didn't send any punches back. Just kind of sat there and took it. I feel like Kelvin, with his grappling background, can defend takedowns. He's just got to stay away from that fucking cage, because that's where Sean Brady can win. But I think Kelvin Gastelum can outstrike him here, and I'm going to take him by decision. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what Gastelum looks like on the scales. He's coming down to 170 for this fight. I know he's made it in the past, but he did struggle with it. I think he missed two or three weight cuts back in the day at 170. So interested.
He has trouble at 185 too with his weight cuts. Yeah. I tried to look at his Instagram because I feel like that's a good way to see how people are doing. He's got no shirt off pics, so I can't tell how lean he is at all. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He's at Fight Ready, I do believe. Last time I saw his Instagram, but I'm not positive. But yeah, I think he's decent enough defensive grappling, where Sean Brady doesn't have the best takedowns. He's obviously a really good jiu-jitsu player, and I think Gastelum will be good enough to defend those takedown attempts and win the striking matchup on the feet.
Yeah, I feel like we see these guys like Sean Brady, and they're physically imposing, good grapplers, but they don't have great open space takedowns, and they really make their money with the grappling on the cage. And from what I've seen of Sean Brady too, he gets pushed backwards a lot. And he's not the advancing fighter, and it can be hard to get Kelvin Gastelum probably up on that cage. So it'll be interesting. I think Kelvin will be a little bit nervous for those takedowns. We might see a little bit of a slower fight here. So, yeah, give me Gastelum by decision. Oh, I might bet him. Just got to see where that line goes. And then, or see if he makes weight. And then I also did parlay the over 1.5 in this fight with the under 1.5 in the Brundage fight. So that's one to keep in mind. Yeah, Gastelum by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Rob Font versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Deiveson moving up to 135 here versus Rob Font. I got to be on the Rob Font side. I feel like Deiveson was so physically imposing at 125, and he's still going to be big at 135. There's no doubt. This dude was put on a little bit more muscle, a little bit higher body fat, but nothing too crazy. He was already making a big cut. And Rob Font, a guy who's had his own scale issues, has missed weight 2 or 3 times, I believe, here in the bantamweight division. And getting held down by Corey Sandhagen, I don't think determines your fate, because I feel like Figueiredo, one of the main reasons Font got held down is because of how long fucking Sandhagen's torso is, and I feel like Figueiredo doesn't have that size to impose for the grappling. But Deiveson struggled. I mean, he keeps his hands down. He struggles with like a jab. Moreno, every time he used a jab, every time Moreno is high volume, pushing him backwards, which is exactly what Rob Font does. I got to take Rob Font by a knockout. I'm going to take it first round. I just feel like he's going to push him until he breaks him. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think people get discouraged from that Rob Font's last fight with Sandhagen, where he's just held down for 25 minutes pretty much. I think he came in on short notice as well. He had a different matchup initially. So, I mean, that could play into that as well. But I just think his jab and his boxing are so good. I think it'll be tough for Figueiredo. Maybe Figueiredo's able to get him down, but I don't think he'll be able to keep him down for that long. And I think Rob Font, with that volume and that boxing, I think he'll be able to take this one over and eventually finish Figueiredo.
I also really like the under 2.5 in this fight, because I feel like Rob Font's never taken damage well to his face. We've seen with Adrian Yanez one, even though his face was all swollen, how much damage was done to his face versus Vera and Aldo. So, Figueiredo could hit him with 1 or 2 really big punches, and it could be night-night as well. So I do like that under. I'm debating between that under when I see that line and Rob Font's money line. I'm going to probably make a decision between one of the two. So give me Rob Font, KO round 1. Okay, for the next fight, we have Jalen Turner versus Bobby Green. Gonna take Jalen Turner here on short notice. Very fun matchup. However, I feel like Bobby Green is Jalen Turner is just such a tough matchup for anybody with his size, his speed. I mean, he lost versus Dan Hooker, but some of those moments, there was a head kick that was so fast. His hands are fast. Both these guys are pretty good at range. I'd just say Jalen Turner probably has less head movement and Bobby has more. I'm going to go with Jalen Turner sub. I feel like this guy's just got an ability to drop people or pressure them until they give up their neck or something. And I feel like Bobby, where he doesn't really do too much of that, he may here. And I feel like Turner's going to pressure him until he folds him. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think if Turner wins, it's going to be by finish. I'm noticing this now, but all of his wins are by finish. I mean, and then when he's losing, his last 3 losses are by all 3 of Turner's last losses are all by decision. Hooker, Gamrot, and then Frivola, the one before that. So something to keep in mind. Bobby Green does tend to go to decisions. But as of late, I mean, he has not been going to decision and finished Tony Ferguson and then Grant Dawson 30 seconds in. So something's got to give.
Lost to
both
Drew
these guys
Dober, too, by a knockout, and Islam by a finish.
And Islam, yeah. Yeah, I mean, besides the last 5 fights, he's been going to decision.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, both these guys, when they're losing to guys towards the top of the division. Look at Bobby Green's losing to Drew Dober, Makhachev, Fiziev, Thiago Moises, and then Turner. He's losing to Hooker, Gamrot, Favola, Luque. So, I mean, this is really an interesting matchup. I think the difference will be Turner's finishing potential and his length here. He's got 5 inches of height in this matchup and about 4.5 inches of reach, and I think that'll play the difference here.
And then his leg reach is probably like an 8-inch advantage. His legs are super long, and something that isn't good about Bobby Green's game, I mean, it works for him in some instances and it doesn't for others, is when he shoulder rolls, he kind of does like lean his head down low in positions, and if Jalen Turner just throws some kicks, I mean, you could be leaning straight into some of those kicks. So that could be a bad spot for Bobby Green. But yeah, the scare would be Jalen Turner fading, similar to how he did against Dan Hooker, and that's the guess you have to take, I guess. But I'm gonna stick with Jalen Turner here by submission, round 1. All right, guys, thank you for sticking around till the main event. Of course, drop a like on the video, subscribe, comment, anything you fucking want down below. Yeah, for the main event, we got Beneil Dariush versus Armen Tsarukyan. In my eyes, extremely good matchmaking here. Similar, we have a nice little loop of great grapplers that have fought. We have Armen Tsarukyan versus Gamrot, Gamrot versus Dariush, and now we got Dariush versus Tsarukyan. So, some extremely good scrambling fights, and it's tough to make a pick on this one just because I feel like there's a lot in play for each fighter, but we got to go, I feel like, with Armen. I don't like the odds number behind him. I feel like it's more like a minus 160. That should be the price. Like, how is Charles Oliveira an underdog to Beneil Dariush, and then Beneil up back to a plus 220 all of a sudden? It's a big jump for me. It comes down mainly to the striking, and most of all, I'd say the speed. I just don't think Benny's reaction timing and his speed of his strikes are quite the same. And he leaves himself open a lot on the feet, and we saw that with Oliveira. He didn't really react to the head kicks, didn't really react to some of the hooks that came afterwards, but interesting fight. Due to how Dariush has been losing in the past, it's typically by a finish, so we're going to go with a second round knockout here. What are you thinking?
Yeah, really looking forward to this fight, but yeah, I do lean Armen Tsarukyan here. He's really dangerous. I mean, his kicks are phenomenal. His punches are all right, but I think the one thing that stands out are his kicks on the feet. So, and we just saw Dariush lose by head kick pretty much in his last one. And when Dariush is losing, he's getting finished. He's been 5 losses and 4 by KO, 1 by submission. So I lean Armen Tsarukyan here by finish. I think if it goes later, I mean, maybe Tsarukyan slows down like he did in that Gamrot fight, but I don't think it will go that far. I like Tsarukyan here early.
Yeah, what I see as a really big scare in this fight is that Benny's just such a good scrambler, and if Armen's not smart and he just tries to wrestle in this fight, which I don't think is the good approach for him, Benny's scrambling skills are just so good that he's just probably wasting energy there, and then that would lead to rounds 3, 4, and 5 just being all for Beneil in my eyes. And I think if you're talking about a power advantage with the hands, I'd have to give it to Beneil because that left hand is, we've seen it, very powerful. He uses a lot of his body to throw it, but I mean, the scare too, Beneil does like to pressure a lot, and Armen is typically the guy who pressures, so we're going to see a clash of styles there. Armen, as we saw like we talked about earlier in the Silva fight, left himself open. I think he's overly confident in his offensive skills, and he wasn't prepared for someone to really throw something at him, and he's got caught with a huge left hook, almost knocked out. But then again, you look at Beneil Dariush, this guy doesn't move his head much either. Interesting. I feel like also the kicks, like we were talking about earlier, Beneil just likes to use his left kick to the body, his left kick to the inside of the leg, and just clash. I think he just throws it just to throw it and clash with someone's body, and Armen's a little bit more precise with those, and maybe he could step into range and use them better, but nevertheless, a really interesting matchup. I think anyone betting Dariush's price could easily make good money there, so what are your other thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I mean, if Tsarukyan, like you said, if he does come out there and grapple heavy and he's not able to finish Dariush early on in that first couple rounds, I think Dariush could take over as Tsarukyan slows down. That would be a worry of mine, but I just think that Tsarukyan will have a different approach than just the all-out grappling.
Right. And his cardio actually has been pretty good. Like, even in the Gamrot fight, like, he was more tired than Gamrot, but it was more that Gamrot was just able to control him later in the fight on the ground. So, I don't think Armen is going to, per se, gas out, but I think that technique gets a little bit more sloppy. Beneil's kind of already a guy who, like, he gets through a round, and he gets a little bit more sloppy, but he stays at that slop level for, like, the rest of the fight. So, yeah. Really good matchup. Feel like both these guys are just set up to fight each other. So, any more thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Dariush coming off of a KO loss, I don't really love that for him. And I think Tsarukyan will be able to capitalize there.
All right. Tsarukyan KO round 2. Okay, guys, to recap, the Allen versus Craig card turned out a little positive card after a little bit of a losing streak. Man, what really got us on this card was Peyton Talbot by knockout. He was, I feel like, on the verge of knocking out Nick Aguirre, and that was a difference between 2.77 units and 0.74 for how much we could have profited. But yeah, Nick Aguirre just only wanted to grapple. Talbot took advantage when he could. Sucks because that was his first career submission, but you know, got to live and learn with those situations.
Yeah, and if you were watching the broadcast or watched our breakdown, you knew that Nick Aguirre was first round fighter, and then Talbot, all of his wins were in 2 and 3. So I mean, that's kind of how we thought the fight would go. If Aguirre would have success early, and then Talbot would take over. And on the broadcast, they flashed up the live odds at Talbot like minus 130.
I tried to bet that, and they closed it on me. Oh,
I tried to get in there when I saw that, and I couldn't get it. But if you're able to get that, I mean, congrats to you. You probably won a ton of money.
Yeah, I had
that just seems so free. I mean, that's like how.
It's like getting Cheeto Vera at plus money versus some shitty fighter because he started slow. Like,
right. I mean, that was just like how they fought. I mean, if we looked at the record or saw how they were winning, that's kind of what you would expect.
And then to add insult to injury, I had Talbot by second round knockout and Talbot by third round knockout as like a little sprinkle on the top of that. And, of course, didn't get those because of it wasn't a knockout in round 3. So that was also shitty. So it double pissed me off. But I can't complain too much. That's just the way things go sometimes. Parkin, I'll go back to the top of the list because I know I jumped down. Parkin by KO points. Both those guys are so awful. Oh, my God. I could not believe how bad both those guys were. But I knew he would be slightly better striker. I don't know. They both looked real bad. Next, Mata really didn't end up being a good bet at all. Somehow got bailed out, but you have to give me a little bit of a break if people are complaining that we got this win, because when I had the Daniel Lacerda versus whatever his name, that Mexican fighter,
who they just booked again. They booked that fight again.
Like the third time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I had Edgar, who was on his way to winning anyway, and then they called it off, and I didn't get any of my money there. So it's kind of, leveling the playing field in a way for me, at least. Definitely Trey Ogden should have won that fight, no doubt. Not saying that. He shouldn't have. Sneaked in a bet on Amanda Hebus. Pinheiro was slowing down in round 2. Felt like Amanda Hebus was ahead. The line I saw when I opened my app was minus 120, and then it kept going up, and it kept going up, and then it kept going up, and I could finally only get a bet in before they kept the line open long enough at minus 188. Lucas Alexander and Jetta Sarity over 1.5 ended up being a really bad call because Sarity is just going for the kill. So, and Lucas Alexander was piecing him up too before that. So, next, Brendan Allen, Paul Craig, either fighter to get a Performance of the Night award. Easy. Paul Craig just didn't do anything the whole fucking fight. Brendan Allen gets a finish. You win that bet every time. So again, this was the cut down for the fights not go the distance, minus 750. But if the fighter gets either of those two fighters get a finish in that fight, it's probably going to be a performance bonus. So we get a huge cut down there. And then I took Hooper by finish. Knew that Jordan Levitt would slow down, be worse in the grappling, and doesn't have really KO power. And then Brito, that fight was fucking hilarious. I mean, get up and do something, boy, and the back to the head strikes that he was just like blah 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 blah. That whole thing was hilarious. I mean, yeah, I mean, our breakdown too pretty accurate. Pierce leaves his neck out. That's how things happen. So, but yeah, got only one fight wrong on the whole card. That was Lucas Alexander and Jetta Sarity. Other than that, pretty fucking good outing. Any more thoughts?
Yeah, just keep that win streak going here.
Yes, sir. Also, it is kind of funny. I bet the plus. I missed the plus money last week. I bet the plus money at half the price this week. A little bit more nervous about it, and then of course they hit. So, but scared money can't make money. So probably shouldn't have done that. Go for it more. Okay. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. As always, peace.
Peace.
I know. It doesn't matter from the trenches. I'm built like this. The old doubted me said I couldn't do it. The old said I couldn't do it. Look at me now.